Uh-oh. Denny, Hamlin, and FedEx are entering the final year of their current deal with Joe Gibbs Racing. I wouldn't be worried, except we all just saw Kyle Busch walk out the door. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. A lot of news to get to here this Thursday. But real quick, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button down below. I think it's more on this side. I may be wrong. It may be the off season, but the NASCAR news cycle doesn't slow down. And Daytona, or the Busch Clash, will be here before we know it. So again, if you're new, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date on all things NASCAR. We've got a few stories to discuss. Let's begin with some fun clips I saw out of Petty GMS this morning. They tweeted a couple photos of Jimmy Johnson, Luke Lambert, who's going to be Noah Gregson's crew chief next year, at the shop. They also posted a short clip of Jimmy Johnson addressing the team.
This is a team that impressed the hell out of the NASCAR space in 2022. It's going to be a great time. Certainly a lot of work, but something I'm excited for, and I know everybody in here is ready to get to work as well.
They've got to change the name, right? I know Maury Gallagher and the GMS group still are the majority owners of the team. Richard Petty, Jimmy Johnson, they have minority stakes. But you look at other teams like Trackhouse, who've created a brand for themselves, now in the truck series with Tricon Garage. You gotta believe Petty GMS is thinking about a rebrand. I guess it's tough because you like having Petty in the name, the king. But now that you also got Jimmy Johnson involved, he's gonna drive for you in some races next year. I feel like you gotta squeeze him in there somewhere. Create a new brand that encompasses all three of you, GMS, Johnson, and Petty. That's just my 2 cents. I just thought those clips were interesting. I can't wait to see what kind of impact, if any, Jimmy Johnson has on that program next year. It feels like he's going to be very, very involved, but it also feels like this whole deal came together last minute, and listening to Jimmy Johnson talk at Phoenix a couple weeks ago, it sounds like he has not thought that far into the future yet. They're kind of taking this day by day, week by week for the time being. So we'll see what happens. Very exciting stuff. Next bit of news. NASCAR is expanding into South America, Brazil to be specific. Adam Stern wrote a piece on this for Sports Business Journal. He tweeted, NASCAR has identified Brazil as the place to launch its next international series and first in South America, and it will partner with GT Sprint Race, which will be rebranded as NASCAR Brazil Sprint Race starting in 2023 with a goal to eventually race on ovals. NASCAR already has an international presence with series in Europe, Mexico, and Canada, now add Brazil. Brazil is an interesting choice, and actually in that Adam Stern piece he notes that NASCAR was looking at China, parts of Asia, before the pandemic hit. Ultimately, they settled on Brazil in South America. Perhaps the most interesting part of this whole news, this whole Adam Stern piece, was this detail. NASCAR wants to eventually have a common chassis across all of its different international series so that it can create a global championship. Anything that can make these international NASCAR properties more uniform, they can help each other grow, they can elevate one another, I think that's a good thing. Because at least here in the States, we don't hear much about even the NASCAR Mexico series. Anything that can help bolster NASCAR's international presence, I think is a good thing. So we'll see what happens. NASCAR continues to talk about bringing the Cup Series, the American NASCAR Cup Series, abroad in the coming years as well. So NASCAR trying to get more global, more international. I don't blame them for trying. Now we just got to see what that looks like in actual practice. Another interesting note on Brazil, I double checked my YouTube analytics, and I'm primarily a NASCAR themed YouTube channel. Brazil actually makes up the 5th largest percentage of my audience. I think it's less than 1% of my total audience, but still, it's in the top 5. So I think NASCAR may have their priorities in the right place here. Shout out to all the Brazilian viewers out there. All right, I saved perhaps the most pressing news for last. I did not hear this clip for myself, but reporter Austin Konensky wrote a whole piece based on what Adam Stern, we just talked about him from Sports Business Journal, said on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. Konensky writes, according to Sports Business Journal's Adam Stern on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, both Denny Hamlin and FedEx's contracts with Joe Gibbs Racing will expire at the conclusion of the 2023 season. Try not to panic, Denny Hamlin fans. I know this may sound similar to the situation Joe Gibbs Racing just went through with Kyle Busch. M&M saying that they're not coming back. JGR trying to find a sponsor, couldn't, ultimately went with Ty Gibbs. Kyle Busch leaves the team. Hamlin fans, do not panic just yet. This isn't quite the same as the Kyle Busch scenario. At this point in the Kyle Busch saga, M&M's had already informed Joe Gibbs Racing they were not coming back. FedEx hasn't said that. They just haven't yet signed an extension. So there's still a very good chance, a very realistic chance, that FedEx is going to stick around as the main primary sponsor for Denny Hamlin for 2024 and maybe for years to come. So let's not panic. This story is worth noting though, because Joe Gibbs Racing did just lose a high-profile sponsor and as a result a high-profile driver. So the possibility of this happening in back-to-back years, it's in the back of everyone's mind at least. Here are the facts. Both Denny Hamlin and FedEx signed a multi-year contract extension just before the start of the 2021 season. They never disclosed exactly how long that multi-year deal was for, but now it sounds like it was really just a 2-year extension through the end of 2023, at least according to Adam Stern. This most recent summer, Denny Hamlin was on the Dale Jr. download and was asked by Jr., how much longer do you want to keep racing? Do you want to drive for your own team one day, or do you want to retire with Joe Gibbs Racing? And Denny Hamlin made it abundantly clear that he wants to retire with Joe Gibbs Racing and with FedEx. But he was also honest about not racing for many, many, many more years.
I don't want the performance to decline to where I don't think I can win every week.
Would you go drive for your own team? Would that be more interesting to you?
Not if FedEx extends. Yeah. I think that I would like to retire at Gibbs with FedEx.
That was just a few months ago. So what is FedEx going to do? I don't know exactly what they spend on Joe Gibbs Racing and Denny Hamlin annually, but my guess it's in the $20 to $25 million range. That's pretty big money. There are very few sponsors left in the NASCAR Cup Series who spend anywhere close to that. You look at like Ally, they sponsor every race for the 48 car at Hendrick. Smithfield sponsors most of Eric Almirola's races. Shell Pennzoil sponsors most of Logano's. HendrickCars.com sponsors nearly every Larson race, but that's about it. I tried to do some basic research into FedEx's business, and I did find a couple interesting details. For one, the Senior VP of Integrated Marketing and Communications for FedEx has changed in the last couple of years. Patrick Fitzgerald stepped down from that role in 2020. The new Senior VP of Integrated Marketing and Communications is someone named Jenny Robertson, and I believe she still holds that position today. She will likely be the one who signs off on or rejects the final JGR Denny Hamlin sponsorship deal. But it's worth mentioning she was part of the 2021 extension. So the senior marketing executive has changed in recent years, but still sounds like the current one is interested in racing, still sees some value there. Does she see quite the same value that the previous senior VP of marketing did? That's to be determined. It's worth noting in 2019, FedEx sponsored basically every race for Hamlin. In 2022, they sponsored, by my count, 31 of a possible 38 events. Coca-Cola had a race, Sport Clips sponsored a few races for Hamlin this past year. They brought in an all-new company, Acumatica? I don't know what they do, I don't know how to say it. So FedEx, while still by far one of the most involved sponsors with any driver in the Cup Series today, they have slightly scaled back their commitment to Joe Gibbs Racing in the last couple of years. Is that something to worry about? Not necessarily. It's just something worth noting, especially since we've heard drivers, and Denny Hamlin's been one of the most outspoken drivers about how the business model needs to change. We've heard drivers say in the past year, NASCAR teams need a larger slice of the TV revenue pie so that they aren't as dependent on corporate sponsorship, the whims of whatever marketing executive is in power, to make money, to stay afloat. That's the only reason I bring it up. At this point, and obviously I have no inside information, but I believe Denny Hamlin and FedEx staying at Joe Gibbs Racing beyond 2023 is the most likely outcome. But 9-10 months ago, I still believe Kyle Busch staying at Joe Gibbs Racing was likely to happen. That didn't come to fruition. Hopefully Denny Hamlin, FedEx, JGR are able to work something out in the coming months. I did play you that clip of Denny Hamlin on the Dale Jr. download saying that he wants to retire at JGR with FedEx.
I would like to retire at Gibbs with FedEx. But if things change, then things change, and then you got to reevaluate.
That was a few months ago, and I'm not saying Denny Hamlin's perspective has changed dramatically, but he has said some not so great things about Joe Gibbs Racing in the last couple of weeks. After the incident at Martinsville where Ty Gibbs wrecked his teammate Brandon Jones for the win, Denny Hamlin, Joe Gibbs' racing teammate to both drivers at the time, tweeted, "I miss JD." Afterwards, he clarified exactly what he meant. I read this in a Racer.com article. Hamlin said, quote, "JD really instilled a family atmosphere at Joe Gibbs Racing. And I just remember that it was such a tight family unit. And really, he made us feel like the guy driving the number 19 car or the number 20 car. That's our brother. We really have to treat them like they're our brother and our family. And I think at times at JGR, we probably work with each other the least amount of any other team. And that's just the facts." I'm not saying it's anyone's fault currently, but JD was just different because he really wrapped his arms around everyone. I told Coy, JD was my dad. He was really my dad as soon as I came into the series. So when you lose that, it changes the culture a little bit, and we just have to get it back. Again, Hamlin made those comments just a couple weeks ago between the Martinsville and Phoenix races. Really interesting stuff. Very candid, very open, very honest. But not hopeless. He does leave the door open at the end there. We can get the culture back. We have to get it back. He's playing to work to make that happen. He's not running from the issue. It sounds like Hamlin's still committed to Joe Gibbs Racing. He's committed to figuring this out, finding an answer, making the culture what it once was. So, I don't know. I'm just trying to give you guys all the details I could find. It's too early to make any definite predictions. I certainly hope Denny, Hamlin, and FedEx are able to stick with JGR for at least a few more years. But we'll see what happens. This is a big story because JGR just lost a major driver sponsor pairing, so hopefully history doesn't repeat itself in back-to-back years. Boy, that could really set JGR behind. Share your thoughts down in the comment section below. I look forward to reading them, but that's going to do it for this episode. Again, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any upcoming NASCAR content. As always, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters as well for going above and beyond to support the show. I greatly appreciate y'all. I will see you again very, very soon. Take it easy. Have a fantastic rest of your day.